Hello everyone. We're going to be talking about installing and using Visual Studio here, and even if you've used it previously in EECS 280, there's going to be some things that we do in 281 with Visual Studio that you're not used to doing. Now we're going to look over at Canvas, and I've got over here the important places we're on EECS 281, Files, Resources. So down here there's Visual Studio installing and using. Now this is not VS Code. VS Code, it's got its own folder. It's got its own tutorials for Windows and Mac, etc. We're talking about Visual Studio. Okay, and there's a PDF here. Now the first thing you should obviously do is get it downloaded and installed if you don't have it yet. This video is meant to be a supplement to this document, not a substitution. So look at that document, get Visual Studio installed, and then we're going to look at, there's some things that we have to do once for Visual Studio to get it up and running and doing the things we need to do, and there's some things we need to do with every project that you need to learn how to use. Okay, so after you've got it installed, don't start it yet. We want to get a file put into place. Now, no IDE is perfect. Visual Studio's problem is it's missing two important files. Other different IDEs have different shortcomings. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm going to have to switch to showing my entire desktop here. And when I do that, we're going to have a little bit of confusion of infinite recursion for a second. Okay, so we got our infinite recursion. So what I'm going to do is go to the Windows button, or you can just hit Alt-X or right-click this. We want to say, or not Alt-X, Windows X. We want to hit the Windows PowerShell admin. Yes, we have to say yes to this. And remember, this is the part we only have to do this once. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to type a bunch of change directory commands to get to the right place where we've got to put this file. Oh, wait, first, we got to get the file. Let's go get the file first. So let's go back to Files here. We're going to close this. We're going to go to the Visual Studio Files, and there's two files here, getop.h, getop.c. Getop.h is the one we need now. Let's download that, and we'll put it in our download folder. And I know where my download folder is, and I'll tell you how to figure out yours in just a minute. So I'm going to save that in my downloads folder. There we go. Okay, now let's go back to our PowerShell admin. So now what I've got to do is I've got to get myself to the folder that needs to go in. So I'm going to type cd space /, and now I don't want to type entire path names. They're a bit confusing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start typing one like PRO and hit tab, and it's going to complete it for me. But if it's not the one I want, if there's multiples that match, I can hit tab a second time. See, I don't want program files. Let's hit it again. I want program files x86. If you hit it too many times, you can just keep hitting it again and it'll wrap around. Okay, so I want to go to program files x86, and if I type dir and return, enter, it's going to show me everything in that folder. So there's a lot of stuff in here. The one I want is Microsoft Visual Studio, but I don't want to type that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type cd space mic and hit tab until it comes around to Visual Studio. There we go. Hit enter, and I'll just pull up a directory each time so you can see what's in there. I've got multiple versions on here. Let's go to 2017 is the one I'm going to demo. Pull it up again with the directory, Community Edition. Okay. And then, we need the VC folder here. That stands for Visual Studio C++. So VC, not VC sharp or VC number sign, just VC. Pull up another directory, and then we want the tools folder. Pull up another directory. We want the MSVC. It's the only thing there. I don't even have to type an M. Just hit tab and then enter. All right. And then this one's very likely going to be a different version number for you. See, this folder name, 14, 16, whatever, is a version number. I'm just going to type cd space tab and let it fill it in. Now, when I pull up a directory here, we're almost there. We need the include folder. Pull up a directory of the include folder, and there should be a lot of stuff. So mine has got like 200 files there maybe. if it goes flying by and has lots of .h files and lots of files that don't have .h's, you're in the right place. Okay, now here's where I've got to know where I put that file. Now I'm just going to pull up a directory /users. Aha, /users. See, mine has DCOadmin, that's the department computer organization that manages our laptops for the department. Ah, Paoletti. Okay, so let's pull up a directory of users, Paoletti. And then there I've got, a bunch of things including downloads. Okay, here's another trick. If I hit F3, it'll bring up the, oh wait, never mind. That's a different version of the shell. Okay, so CD. Okay, so not CD, dir. dir /users, Paoletti, downloads, git star. Aha, oh, there's git pip something, I don't care what that is. So let's do copy. So I want to copy /users, Paoletti, downloads, gitopt.h. Okay, there we go. So I want to copy that file. I hit enter, and it says nothing. Nothing is good. That means there's no error. I can make sure it's here by typing dir space git star, and it'll show me anything that starts with git. Aha, so gitopt.h is in this folder. That's good. Now, that we should only have to do once. If this doesn't turn out to work, I'm going to have an extra sort of appendix at the end of the video to show you how to find out which folder name this should be at the bottom, and you can just sort of repeat these steps and get to the right folder. So let's start up Visual Studio. Yours will probably look different. If you've used it before, you'll have different projects. If you haven't used it before, there'll be none. We want to create a new project. So, and if you've got a different version of Visual Studio, it'll look a little different. Create a new project. I want Windows Desktop, Desktop Wizard. This, what we're going to do is we're going to use a project 0 that's on Canvas. It's an ungraded project, but it's there to help you get used to using the IDE, to get used to using our autograder, stuff like that. It's not part of your grade. If you don't do it, that's fine, but you're going to be setting yourself at a disadvantage when project 1 comes out. So we want you to do this. Now, so that's going to be the name of the project. The second one here, the location, I don't like that default location. I've got a different one. I like Visual Studio 2017 projects. We could also go browse and go create a different location. I'm just used to putting things here, so that's where I'm going to put it. So if you go browse, you could go find another folder, create another folder. You could create like an EECS 281 folder to put your projects in, whatever you want to do. If it's not the default, like every time you create a project, you might have to reselect the one you want. Last thing, before we hit OK, don't hit it yet, we want to make sure that the create directory for solution, we want to make sure it is going to create a directory for our solution. All right, then we'll hit OK. And then here, we got to change some things here. And this you're going to have to do every time you create a project. So we're going to turn off the security development lifecycle. I don't even know what that is. Turn off the precompiled headers. Turn on the empty project. That's what we need. Then we can hit OK here. It should swirl around for a second. And we should have an empty project. Empty meaning there's no source files, there's no header files, there's no nothing in here. Now, remember I said there's parts of Visual Studio that are a little bit of a pain that we've got to do every time. The other thing we need is that gitopt.c file. So let's go back to our browser. Let's close the gitopt.h. Let's download the gitopt.c. So I'll download that. I'll just save it. I could save it in my download folder. I could also say, hey, let's just go save this in my documents. Visual Studio 2017, projects. Oh, I got lots of projects here. Project 0, and I got to go one more level here, project 0. We want to be in the innermost level. So you can see up here on the where it's going to save. So my projects folder, project 0, project 0. The name of the project should be in there twice. All right, I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go back to Canvas here. Project 0, unlike most of our projects, has some starter files. So go to projects, project 0 ungraded, and there's, oh, what have we got here? We got project 0 identifier that we'll talk about later. We got our project 0 winter 21 PDF. So this has some things about like the how to get started, the project identifier, overview, etc. It tells us what we're going to do with project 0. I'm going to make a separate video specific to this stuff. Then there's starter files, and there's some for Mac, Unix, WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, and there's some for starter file for Windows Visual Studio. One of the things in the PDF explains why there's two different versions of these. So we're going to get the Windows Visual Studio files, open that up. Just going to open this, and then, I got a bunch of files here. We could draw a box around them. You can just hit Control-A to select them all. I like shortcut keys. Control-A selects them all. Control-C says I want to copy these. Now we can go back to where we want to put them. Documents, Visual Studio 2017, Projects, Project 0, Project 0, and then I hit Control-V to paste them here, and it resorts them. So now I've got my make file, or it's actually a text file. We'll look at that in a little bit. Getop.c, sample N, sample R. The important thing was we got our header, our source code file in here. All right, let's go back to Visual Studio. And we're going to say source files, add. Now we're going to add existing items. I'm going to grab the getop.c. This one we're going to have to do every time. Source files, add. Now, if we had a project that didn't have starter files, you'd say add a new item, like my project1.cpp file. Since project 0 has another existing file, grab existing item, project0.cpp. One warning here. If you go to add these files and they are not in the current folder, don't go browsing for them. You want everything to be in this one folder. So if what you want is not here, then cancel this, go use your Windows Explorer, get the files in the right location, come back, add existing item. So we don't want to go adding, we want all of our project files to be in one folder. We don't want them spread all over our hard drive. Now let's open up project0.cpp. We don't want to look at getop.c. Don't look at that. Okay, so here's getop.c or project0.cpp, and it says a bunch of things we've got to do. Let's try compiling this. Hey, build solution. If everything went well, it should say 1 succeeded at the bottom. Now, if it didn't, if it told you that it couldn't find getop.h, go through this or skip to the end and watch the end. I'm going to do at the end how to figure out where it should go and get it there. But let's assume that you've at least gone fast forwarded, watch that. We're back at the point where this compiled. Now, if we run this, we can say debug, start without debugging. It should run. And wait a minute, it says error, no mode specified. Oh, that's some Project 0 stuff. Now, we can't get away with showing you everything you need to know about Visual Studio without getting into a little bit of Project 0 stuff. We got a little bit of a chicken and egg problem here. So it says press any key to close this window. Please do that. Don't rely on the X in the upper right corner to close it. There is error checking stuff that Visual Studio does when you press any key. And if you close it with the X, the error checking doesn't happen. So press any key. Okay, so now what we need to do is we're going to right-click the bold Project 0. Just below the solution, we got our Project 0. We're going to right-click that, and we're going to go down to Properties, the very last option. And then we're going to go to Debugging, and we need Command Arguments. We're going to click over here under Command Arguments. This is how you specify what you would have put on the command line besides the executable. Like if you were running it at a Unix prompt, what you would put on the command line besides the executable. You do not put like /project 0 here. You don't do that. What we would add here is the other things that this thing expects to see on the command line. Like if you look at the Project 0 PDF, basically what we're going to have to add is -m and space and then a word like no size. And then I can just hit enter and then hit OK. And now when I run it, debug, start without debugging, it'll say, oh, that's an invalid option. Why is that an invalid option? Well, we can take a look at that. That's kind of Project Zero specific stuff. Let's not look at that now. There's also one other thing we can do here. Let's go back to those properties and debugging. Now, it not liking that is okay. There's some to-dos left in the Project Zero. It's not ready to go. There's things we have to do. We'll do that in a different video. But there's another thing you can do here that you're going to need to do later on is you're going to have to learn in this class how to redirect input. This project reads from CN. It doesn't have a file stream. It doesn't open a file stream. It doesn't read from a file stream. It reads from CN. But I don't want to, once I get the command line stuff working, I don't want to have to type the input every time I run the program. What I'd like to do is I'd like to say, hey, let's take a look at over here, Project Zero folder. I had this ready. Okay, so see these sample N and sample R text files? These are sample input. So what I'd like to do inside of Visual Studio is say, hey, when you run, I want you to read this file as if it was CN. So what we're going to do here is we're going to, oops, I got to go back to editing here. I'm going to put a space in there after the no size, and I'm going to say less than sample-n and hit enter. Now this is wrong. This is wrong. We're going to see what happens when that's wrong. Okay, let's run. Let's say debug, start without debugging. It says, uh-oh, unable to start the program because the specified file name is invalid. I forgot the extension. I forgot the .txt. So let's go back to our Project Zero properties, less than sample n. We'll just add to the n .txt there. All right, we'll hit OK. And then debug, start without debugging. You should also start getting used to the hotkeys here, like Control F5. So I can just close that. Like for me, it's Control F5, runs the program. Wait, did I miss it? I missed it. Okay. Start without debugging. Okay, oh, I see what's happening. We're going to have to go all the way down to the end. And it's running, it's just closing the window. So there's stuff in there that's doing, okay. So let's just set a breakpoint there. Okay, so now we're going to debug, start with debugging. There's a thing where if you redirect input, it doesn't automatically stop and the debugger and stuff like that. So now I can use keys like there's up here, step into is F11, step over is F10. And so I can step over a bunch of these, step over, step over, step over, get mode. Oops, get mode. Oh, step over didn't work, so get mode must have done something. Okay, let's try running it again with debugging, F5. Okay, step over, 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 step into. Aha, now we can step into here. Oh, look at this, there's a bunch of to-dos in there. See, it's running into something that's invalid in here. So it's exiting from the middle of this function, but at least it's reading from our input file correctly, etc. So let's close out of that. And that's, oh gosh, I do these things without thinking sometimes. If you've got it running, there's a stop debugging, which is also Shift F5. I'm so used to doing that sometimes I just do it without even thinking. I just hit Shift F5. Okay, so now we've got the project to the point where you can now switch to the video about Project Zero and get some help with what we need to do in there, unless you weren't able to compile. So if you weren't able to compile, we've got to figure out what folder that getop.h was supposed to be in. So we're going to close this project because this one won't compile. Okay, let's close this project. I'm going to go over to a little project I keep called test. My test has a bunch of includes, like every include I might need, it's in here. But the important thing is I've got IO stream, and I've got a cout statement, and I've got a return 0, and I've got a breakpoint. Now what I want is I want to be able to step into the debugger on this line. So I say start debugging, which is F5, it gets to that line, and I want to step into F11, for me anyway, and it doesn't step into it. Aha, we got to change a setting. So let's stop the debugger, and now we're going to go to right-click the test project. And if you don't have a test project, just create one. All you need is a IO stream, namespace standard, and a cout statement. We're going to go to properties. We're going to go to a different place. We're going to go to C++. And there's like the fourth one over here, support just my code debugging. We want to change that to no. See, just my code says you're not allowed to look at the include files. I want to look at the compiler's include files. So we'll hit OK there. Now, we're going to start debugging, which is F5. So start debugging, and then I'm going to say step into here. Now, don't look at this ugly code. What's important to me is I'm going to go up to the File menu and say File, Save OStream As, and it will tell me the exact folder name where all of those are. And you can sort of see it here at the bottom. It's on the file name. It's got the entire folder name there. And what you could do is you could say, hey, let's go from let's just get rid of it, and we're not going to save this. Let's just backspace over that, and then let's go. You can hold Shift Home to highlight from the end to the beginning, and then Control C would copy that folder name. Okay, then I'm going to cancel out of this. I don't actually want to save this file. I just wanted to know where that file is, because that's where the include file should have been. So now, if I open up a new PowerShell admin, what I can do is I can say CD, and then I say double quote, and then I'm going to right click to paste that in, and then close the double quote, and that'll take me directly to the correct include folder. So if you've got multiple include folders and you don't know which one to put it in, this this set of steps will get you working. All right, let's go back to my OBS. I'm going to stop my recording here.